はい、HataQです。アウターワールド続きをやっていきましょう。さて、モナークの方、立ち去ろうかなと思ったんですけど、考えてみると、メインストーリーこれを忘れてました。というわけで、メインね、場所的にはね、ここですね。
You should know you're getting excellent reviews from across the company. What can I do for you? You weren't supposed to look. I asked you to delete it. Oh, yes. No doubt someone else was having a laugh at my expense before you. This has been my albatross, the great shame of my career. I give MSI everything. My work, my youth, my left kidney, and for years, I was a joke to them. In charge of a scrap heap of a city, abandoned by the board and surviving only through the hypocrisy of our trading partners. I hadn't thought of it that way. But perhaps there's something to that. Thank you for that. Was there something else? You're just as rigid as the old executive committee. Why, we've hardly been able to get a clear message out until recently.
When Graham finally shut up.
Praise the architect for that.
It isn't easy keeping a town like Stellar Bay afloat, especially without the board's backing. We need that frequency to reach our trading partners. Indeed. That's why it's imperative that MSI be reinstated onto the board. And the first step is getting the Bolt 52. Oh, yes. I'm going to be up all night with this. All those blanks waiting to be filled, boxes waiting to be ticked.
Try to control yourself, sir.
Have you any idea how powerful this is? Corporations have been toppled with less. But that's exactly what this is. The world isn't changed with guns and speeches, much as Graham and his followers would like to think, but rather with meticulous documentation.
And the dissemination of the proper ideals and information to those in the highest echelon of society.
On the contrary, I would say good documentation is for everyone. And the Bill of Liquidation/Transfer Form 52 is one of the most formidable pieces of data entry in all of Halcyon. One false stroke can invalidate the entire document.
It's true. One of the old execs gave herself a stroke trying to fill out the exemption section.
For our part, a Bill of Liquidation/Transfer Form 52 will protect our holdings on Monarch by temporarily assigning them to a pass-through entity once we drop our bomb on the board. Corporate espionage. How was that, Celia? Did I sell it?
Your best delivery yet, sir.
Celia?
Already noted for your review, sir.
I have reason to believe that one of the other corporations is operating on Monarch, illegally and in secret.
Really? Most of the time they do illegal stuff out in the open. Cheaper that way.
If we can find proof, I can use that as leverage to encourage certain powers that be to accept our Bolt 52 and reinstate us on the board. If someone is operating here, then Catherine's almost certainly supplying them out of Fallbrook. Perhaps she could be convinced to tell you where they are. That's part of the problem. She has certain ambitions for Stellar Bay, and I fear my asking her would give her the leverage she's been looking for.
Don't get yourself worked up, sir. It's perfectly natural to have a healthy fear of her.
We really don't need to discuss this now, Celia. Oh, I imagine you do. But as much as I love your can-do attitude and dangerous gravitas, Catherine handles all of our shipments. So it would be best if you could leave her in one piece. Is that how you people put it? Of course. I didn't mean to make assumptions. Once you, subtly work out where this corporate facility might be, bring back proof of its operation. Maybe some nice letterhead. Or someone working there. That would do it. I knew there was something going on. This is exactly the proof we need. The board will have to welcome us back now. I'll transmit this data along with the completed Bolt 52 right away. After that, we'll sit back and quietly wait for the board to respond.
That means no more broadcasts from us.
Then it's good that I keep such meticulous notes. I've asked myself the same thing many times, especially seeing as the legal mechanisms we employed were part of the board's own bylaws. Not intentionally, though that's technically true. For many years, this planet was home to as many corporations as Terra 2. But back then, it was known as Terra 1. Really? I always thought they were refreshingly straightforward names. After all, the whole point of terraforming was to make them Earth-like.
Here, though, the results were mixed.
And as the other corporations began to tally their losses, they decided to pull out. Our leadership at the time certainly wanted to.
And how did that work out?
Most regard Monarch as a lost cause. But there were others of us who saw an opportunity. The chance to improve working hours and conditions, to reform MSI from the ground up. Ah, so you've heard about our prior acquaintance. It was a lapse in judgment on my part, and one I'm not keen to recall. Graham seemed like a reasonable man years ago, and we both agreed that MSI's treatment of its workers was untenable. I thought reforms would be enough. I didn't realize you wanted to abolish the corporate system entirely. Reforms are humane, but they're also good business sense. Exhausted, sick, and malnourished workers are not productive workers. Even a cursory review of the data bears that out. Anyway, we learned of a loophole in the corporate bylaws that would allow MSI to claim ownership of the entire planet once the other corporations pulled out, creating the perfect environment for us to enact these new reforms. No, they laughed in our faces and insisted we'd be relocating to Terra 2, along with everyone else. In a manner of speaking, many of us stayed behind, in an act of quiet but firm defiance. As the most senior executive remaining, I ended up in charge of what was left of MSI.
Must have pissed off some real big suits to get stuck with that.
On the contrary, I wrote lots of very important reports on behalf of top MSI officials before I was able to achieve this position. I moved forward with our planned reforms as well as our strategy to assume ownership of the planet. Yet not long after I renamed it Monarch, the other corporations dislodged us from the board and began an official campaign to paint us as lawless savages. I don't know. Everything we did was legal and above board. We followed their rules, and yet they still found reasons to declare us outlaws. I do think there's something useful in a governing body like the board. Something that keeps us from anarchy, but I dearly wish it functioned differently. Why wouldn't anyone? They own nearly all the resources and infrastructure in Halcyon.
Without the board, chaos would overtake the system. Working within the established order isn't a principle to snub one's nose at, Captain.
If you can't beat him, might as well join him and reach into their pockets.
To be on the board is to be part of the colonial community, and being cut off means slow strangulation. I'm not a man to put pride before progress. If membership on the board can ease our hardships and provide us with opportunities, then that's the path I mean to pursue. Besides, I'm hopeful that additional leverage on our part will allow us a more equitable relationship. Indeed. I've discovered it's much easier to negotiate from a position of power. And I don't mean to leave MSI or its people at a disadvantage. My hope is to maintain the reforms we've managed here, and who knows? Perhaps once we're restored, we could spread them to other corporations. It's a legal provision that gives the board the authority to cordon off any planet or location that it deems dangerous.
A necessary evil for the greater good of society.
That's exactly how the board describes it. Yes, making all of MSI criminals in the board's eyes. Rather hard to run a business that way. What can I do for you?
まあ結構長かったね。 多分なんだけど、本当はここ何回も来るんだったんじゃない？なんかここ終わっては戻ってとか、それが多分今まとめて全部やったんじゃねえかなって気もするんだけど、で、こうなるとまだそうだね。続きのここへ行きなさいみたいな感じになってるんで、ちょっとしばらく出れねえな。次ここ行きましょう。この中のクエスト、メインのクエスト、全部処理しちゃわないといけないですね。じゃあ行きましょうか。30メーター、上。方向的に合ってるような感じだな。この
You
人
hear
か。
that? It's the blessed sound of radio silence, which leads me to believe you have sweet, sweet news for me. Yes, indeed. I am back in business. But before we get down to it, might I ask how you handled the problem? In the end?
I'd say fairly competently.
Is that so? I don't know how. The two are diametrically opposed and impossible to please. But it matters not how you fixed my problem, only that you did. I don't doubt that you are working with Phineas, but my contract specifies I relay any acquired information to the purchaser, and to the purchaser alone. However, to send the data, I will need your assistance in cycling the antenna's receiver, so I can input the needed adjustments. You make it sound so scandalous. Phineas has been in hiding for the past 35 years. He got in touch with Nyoka first, who I use as a physical go-between. The rest is history. Don't be ridiculous. We're resetting a broadcast tower, not filing taxes. There are no errands, spreadsheets, or rituals involved. It's simple, truly. I merely need you to waltz outside and throw the lever to cycle the power. I'll key in the numerical adjustments from in here. Eternal, no. What is wrong with you? Who would ever design something like that? However, you're welcome to brew me a Rizzo Insta-coffee from the staff kitchen on your way back. Just step outside, flip the switch, depart forever. Understood? Good. Marvelous. We're in agreement.
I'm starting to see why you don't get much company out here.
Terrific. I'll be here, waiting with bated breath. Give a shout if the panel electrocutes you.
なんか随分簡単だな。そんな感じで大丈夫なの？こっち行けか。なんか上に上がった方がいいのかな。感電気をつけろとか言ってたけど冗談なのかな、それとも本気なのかな。どこだ、ここだ。この機械ね。で
Testing 1, 2, check, check. Sweet stars. But that is a beautiful sound. Can you hear me? We are a go for broadcast. Oh, and I also dispatched Phineas his data. Impatient prick. Worse, I'm now indebted to him for it. Now I'll kindly thank you to get out of my tower. Look, I am well aware that at times I may have the tiniest iota of a prickly exterior. But I must admit I have grown rather fond of you. Take care out there.
Anyone else hear a high-pitched whining? Did I get tinnitus, or is that just Hiram?
何？これ何？どうなんの？これはどうして？
Black holes. Did you see that? Looks like a UDL ship. Based on the gunnery attachments, I guess it's one of the board's blockade enforcers, but don't cite me on that. Oh well, a pity for the crew, but I can't see how it affects me. Hiram? Can you hear me? Did you see that? Architect saved me from swindlers and fools. Sanjar, what are you bloody doing on my channel? Did MSI or did MSI not cease broadcasting? Yes, but... Hiram, are you there? The good captain. The truth brings us together once more. Our salvation has come crashing through the stratosphere. We need only collect its weapons. Are you mad? That's a UDL gunship. You'd probably shoot your own toes off. Ah, I see you learned nothing while dealing with these buffoons. We could use the gunship's armaments to defend Stellar Bay, but we need its targeting module. Our message is so close to breaking free of this planet and spreading to the stars. Help us secure that module and we will save our colony. Listen, I don't care a single whit what you do so long as you leave me out of it. Which means, get off my bored damn channel. I'm more than finished with you lot.
お、これで一応あれかな。また誰かと話さなきゃいけないっぽいな。今度は向こうに行けって。いやー、なんか新しいのが増えたな。進行中。クエスト。ああ、なんか別なやつになったってこと？これは何？終わりってこと？犬のゆりかご。なんだろう、なんか新しいのに発展したね。で、サブクエになったってこと？まあでもここまで行かなきゃいけないんだよね。どうやって行く？こっから飛ぶ方がいいか。ここ意外に不便だな、真ん中。飛べる場所がない。OK、じゃあ行きましょう。まだ連中は復活してるかしてるね。これ何？どこが敵で誰がどうなの？どういう感じ？ターゲットに捉えないってことは両方ともあれだよね。敵ではないってことだよね。一応セーブしとこうか。なんかちょっとわかんないんだよな。どっちかに仲間になれってことだったかな。これ何？どっちかに仲間になりなさいっていう意味だった？わかんねえな。まあ、攻撃してこないところ見ると敵じゃないんだよね。まあいいや。目的の場所行こう。まあこの勢力が争ってんのは確かだからね。なんだけど、今一つなんかどっちにどう肩入れして、どういう立ち回りで動けばいいのかが見えないんだよね。あ、こっちは持ってんね、いっぱい。ちょいちょいちょいちょい、なんか見てないところで戦闘は行われてんのかな。おお、なんかいたね。さあどうだい？あ、そうやね、一つね、銃をいろいろカスタマイズできる場所あるじゃない。あそこの項目にね、なんか暗くて俺ね、文字あんまりよく見てなかったんだけどね、お金をかけると強くできるね、項目があってね、一応ある程度お金かけてね、全部の武器をね、底上げしました。そしたらね、結構数値強くなってんだよね。だから基本的にすごいいい武器を強くする方がいいんだけど、最初のうち弱い武器しか入んないから弱い武器を強くしてつないで、また次の強い武器、どっかでなんかリミッターかかるみたいなんだよね。なんかレベルとかによっても。だからそのギリギリぐらいまで上げて使うっていうやり方をすれば、攻撃力をそんなにポイント振らなくても銃そのものの性能でなんとかなるっぽいような感じなんだよね。なのでそこそこの投資金額、なんか1000いくらになるぐらいまでの間はね、カツカツ上げたかな。でね、ライフル狙撃用のやつね、あれだけねちょっと多めにお金振ってね、一応強くはした、他のやつよりも。なんだけど、あの銃自体が強いのかどうかもちょっとよくわからないからあれなんだけど、なんとも言えないんだけど。で、しばらく使ってみて大丈夫なようだったら、結構お金を投資していこうかなっていう感じでいます。こんなの。これがそうか、さっき落下した船か。そういうことね。いや、よくコンピューター生きてんな。 パスワードとかなんか順番だけ気にしないと。
My name's Jen. I'm the chief engineer on this gunship, and I'd like to let the record show that our captain is a total fucking hullhead. I told him again and again that without fixing our regulators, spinning up the engines are going to blow through our coils and we'll go flying off in a completely random direction. Well, here we are. Thinking we'll hit soil in about 30 seconds. This is your chief engineer signing off for what is probably the last time. It's a shame you can't see this middle finger I'm holding up, because I'm doing it as hard as I can.
OK かな。これを最後にこの船は落下してしまったのかな。それにしてはでも全然慌ててなかったね。もっとワンワン騒ぐように。ああ、それともあれなのかな、普通に降りるつもりだったのかな。それが急遽こういう状態になった。その可能性もあるね。ここはそうか、マップとか出るわけじゃねえんだ。特に何も敵っぽいのはないね。一択か。使う。こんな感じ。あ、これから使うのかな。なるほど。でこれをゲットすると。さあ、それでどこに行けばいい？ちょっとウェイト。これで、再開かな。で、この先か。いた。
The gunship. Have you secured its targeting module? At last. Now we must secure the Stellar Bay landing pad. We will fortify the city against the board's assault.
I'll settle for shooting goons and grabbing loot.
And you, Captain. Are you prepared? No. Our hearts have long since closed to one another. He is blinded by his love for bureaucracy.
うわー、これ迷うね。いいのかな？任意になってるんだもんね。
Time is of
い
the
やー、
essence,
ちょっと
Captain.
待てよ。
Be swift with your decision.
グラハムっていう選択もあるってこと？あれグラハム？あれこれエリーか。わあ、どうしよう。どっちに渡す方が正しい？まあいっか。
The gunship. Have you secured its targeting module?
聞いとくか、一応。
The iconoclasts are free folk. We live under our rules, motivated by our own beliefs, all petals on the same flower of enlightenment. Meanwhile, the board strangles the will of its workers. It is the penultimate exercise of a poisoned society where people are enslaved by a corporate ladder. We seek to replace their way of life with ours. Philosophism is the key to unlocking their shackles. Oh, yes. Gunships hover in our skies, ready for the day they decide to come to our doors waving banners of war. The perception of visionaries is often tainted by the lies of their oppressors. A sad state of affairs, to be sure. Awakening is available to all whose minds are ready to accept it. What would you like to know?
I would like to know what you think Bakonu meant when he wrote, "Your work is to discover the truth, and then with all your heart give yourself to it."
Ah, how refreshing to have a scholar among us. Bakonu's text simply refers to our entire purpose, assisting the universe in realizing its own truth. Let it guide us as it will.
It refers to giving oneself over to the plan. It is not some paean to an invisible creator in the sky.
Go ahead. Not in the sense of a single entity, fashioning the universe as a whittler fashions a flute. The universe came into being over time, organically, naturally, and without purpose. In that sense, I suppose you could say that, in the interest of finding its purpose, the universe itself created all living things.
The universe doesn't need to find its purpose. It is a mathematically perfect equation that gives mankind purpose.
That we'd consider ourselves in any way capable of understanding the universe, much less an equation that drives it, is nothing but hubris. Ah, the eternal. We are all part of the consciousness of the cosmos. Each of us plays a tiny role in the universe's continual journey toward understanding itself. You and I, and the rats and the mantis swarms. Divinity is in us all, and the eternal is that divinity. Divinity cannot be quantified, Captain. It is or it isn't. We are or we aren't. All right. The gunship. Have you secured its targeting module? At last. Now we must secure the Stellar Bay landing pad. We will fortify the city against the board's assault.
Great. We're about to create mass chaos and mayhem. My two favorite things.
And you, Captain. Are you prepared?
そうしようか。
This is it. Let us save this planet once
これ
and
が
for
正しいのか
all.
どうかわかんないけど。
Meet our forces in the ruins south of the city. Come prepared. Sanjar is sure to go down swinging.
さて、区切りも良さそうなんでね、今回はここまでということで、よかったらまた次回も見に来てください。チャンネル登録、そして、良ければいいねボタンの方もぜひよろしくお願いします。それじゃあ、また会おうぜ。